Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're exploring a book that's, well, truly resonated across the world. Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. I mean, the reach is incredible. Translated into, what, over 65 languages?
Yeah, over 65. And sales figures, something like 65 million copies plus. It's phenomenal.
It really is. And I think part of that magic comes from Coelho himself, right? His own life story seems so deeply baked into the book.
Absolutely. Facing really tough times, even being institutionalized, and then that community Santiago pilgrimage. It all feeds into the core idea.
Which is the personal legend. Let's define that. Coelho calls it, what you have always wanted to accomplish.
Right. And maybe even simpler. The reason you are here.
So it's about purpose.
Exactly. And what's fascinating, I think, is how this idea of the personal legend maybe challenges how we normally think about motivation. Like Maslow's hierarchy.
You mean needing safety and food before you can think about higher goals?
Precisely. But for Santiago, the main character, pursuing his personal legend isn't the final step. It's actually the catalyst, the thing that makes him deal with the basics. He gets robbed, loses everything.
Yeah.
But the drive to find his treasure forces him to, get back on his feet, find work, ensure his safety.
Ah, okay. So the dream pulls him through the practical needs. It flips the pyramid, sort of.
Kinda, yeah. It suggests that sometimes that big why gives you the strength for the how.
That's a powerful way to look at it.
And it touches on his essential ideas, too, like Sartre's condemned to be free.
Meaning we have to choose, because nothing's pre-written.
Right. The Alchemist puts a spin on that. It suggests maybe there is a purpose, a personal legend, but realizing it isn't passive. It demands, active, courageous choices. It's this blend of destiny and free will.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. It fights against what the book calls the world's greatest lie.
Yeah. That's the belief that at a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us. That feeling of powerlessness.
Which can be so easy to slip into. But the book counters with this really hopeful message. People are capable, at any time, of doing what they dream of.
It's a huge call to reclaim that agency. But then you have figures like the Crystal Merchant. He knows his dream going to Mecca, but he doesn't go.
And his fear isn't failing, right? It's something else.
Exactly. It's the fear that if my dream is realized, I'll have no reason to go on living. It's profound. It suggests the personal legend isn't just a goal to tick off.
It's the journey itself, the process.
Yeah, a continuous becoming. It's not supposed to end. And sometimes the path looks like a detour.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, connecting it to real life. Like Harrison Ford.
Oh, that's a great example.
Right. He was struggling as an actor, so he became a carpenter to, pay the bills. Seems like giving up, maybe?
Or at least a major step sideways.
But that carpentry work led him to build cabinets for George Lucas. And that connection opened the door to Star Wars.
Perfect. It's like the book's Omens. Signs or opportunities appearing in unexpected ways. His carpentry wasn't a failure. It was the necessary step, the omen.
The universe conspiring, but not always how you expect.
Precisely. Now, we should probably touch on criticisms, too, just briefly. Some people find the book a bit simplistic. Maybe call it spiritualized capitalism.
Implying it ignores real-world obstacles, that just wanting it is enough.
Sort of, yeah. That it might overlook systemic issues. But I think that maybe misses the book's intention. It's not really a sociological treatise. It functions more like a fable, focused squarely on that internal journey, finding courage, resilience, transformation. That's why it resonates so widely, I think. It speaks to the heart.
That makes sense. It's about the individual's inner world. So, wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for you, the listener?
I think it comes down to that wonderful parable near the end. The drops of oil on the scoon.
Ah, yes. The secret to happiness.
Right. The wise man says it's to see all the marvels of the world and never to forget the drops of oil on the spoon. The oil being your purpose, your personal legend. You have to carry it carefully.
Exactly. But the castle, the marvels, that's the journey, the present moment, the people you meet. Don't get so focused on the oil that you miss the beauty around you.
It's about balance. Pursue the dream, but live the life happening right now.
It really is. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Santiago travels so far, endures so much, only to find his treasure literally buried back where he started.
But he wouldn't have known it was there or its value without the journey.
Precisely. So the question for you is, what might your journey, even with its detours, reveal about the treasure that's perhaps been within you or right near you all along? Welcome to the Deep Dive. So today we're looking at this really intriguing idea from Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist, the personal legend.
Hmm.
It's described as this, unique purpose we all have, something maybe felt really strongly when we were younger, but, well, life happens.
Right. And I think our goal here is to really dig into that. What is this calling? How does it connect to, say, psychology or philosophy? And importantly, what does it mean for you listening right now and finding meaning?
Okay, so Santiago, the shepherd boy, he gets this call. But then there's also this mention of a mysterious force trying to stop him. Is that just like a story element?
Well, yes and no. I mean, it functions as a narrative device, sure, but it really speaks to real barriers. Think about it, societal expectations, maybe fear of judgment, even just the comfort of staying put, like Santiago with his sheep.
Ah, right. That leads to what the book calls the world's greatest lie, doesn't it?
Exactly. That idea that at some point, we just lose control and our lives are run by fate. But the personal legend, it's presented as the way out of that. It's about asserting your own will, making a choice. It's active, not passive destiny.
And what's fascinating is how this isn't purely mystical. I mean, you can connect it to psychology, right? Like Abraham Maslow's whole concept of self-actualization.
Spot on. Self-actualization is that drive to become everything you can be. The personal legend, you could say, is the specific path or quest that leads you there. It gives that drive a direction.
A purpose.
A purpose. And, you could even bring in Carl Jung here briefly. His ideas about individuation becoming your whole self and synchronicity.
Synchronicity. Those meaningful coincidences.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily magic, as Jung saw. It's more like when you're truly committed, truly on your path, your awareness shifts. You start noticing opportunities, connections, resources that maybe were there all along, but you just weren't tuned in to see them. The universe conspiring is really about your perception aligning with your intention.
Okay, so this helps clear things up. Because it's easy to hear personal legend and just think, oh, follow your passion. But it feels deeper than that phrase often implies.
It really is. Follow your passion can be a bit flimsy sometimes, right?
Yeah.
A personal legend, as Coelho frames it, feels more like a profound calling you cultivate. It might grow out of curiosity, sure, but it involves real skill development, intentional effort, sometimes difficult work.
So not just finding a hobby you like and trying to make money from it.
Not necessarily, no. It's often about aligning with something bigger than just yourself, contributing in a unique way. It's driven by that inner desire, fulfillment, courage, rather than, say, chasing status or salary because that's what's expected or because you're afraid not to. That's the contrast.
And it's never too late, apparently. I mean, you look at real-world examples. Colonel Sanders starting KFC in his 60s.
Yeah.
Vera Wang launching her fashion brand at 40.
Exactly. Those stories are powerful because they show this isn't just a young person's game. And often, all those earlier experiences, even the ones that seem like detours or failures, they actually build the foundation you need for when you do finally pursue that legend.
Right, but there are pitfalls, like the crystal merchant in the story. He dreams of Mecca, but he never goes.
Ah, yes. He's such a key character for understanding the obstacles.
Huh.
He represents getting stuck in comfort, being afraid of the change required to actually live the dream. His shop becomes a kind of beautiful cage.
So pursuing the legend requires risk, a leap of faith.
Definitely. The book makes that clear. You have to be willing to step out of the known to embrace uncertainty. There's that line, faith is activated through risk. You've had to take the first step for the path to appear, so to speak.
Which might be why, some people criticize The Alchemist for being maybe a bit simple or unrealistic.
Sure, you hear that.
Yeah.
But I think that misses the point slightly. It's not meant to be gritty realism. It's an allegory, a fable. Its strength is its accessibility, its power to inspire, precisely because it speaks in these universal, symbolic terms.
Okay, so let's bring it back to the listener. What's the core takeaway here? The personal legend is this innate purpose. It connects to deep psychological needs, but it's also a choice. It takes courage.
Absolutely. And that idea that the universe conspires, it's not passive. It conspires in response to your commitment, your action.
So how can someone listening start to maybe reconnect with their own personal legend if it feels lost?
Okay, some practical thoughts. First, maybe just take 10 minutes. Sit quietly, no distractions, and just write down what you truly desire. Even if it seems totally wild or impossible right now, just get it out. An act of remembering yourself.
Okay.
Second, think back. What did you love doing as a kid or a teenager before all the shoulds and responsibilities piled on? What felt authentically you? Try to reconnect with that feeling.
Like uncovering clues.
Exactly. And third, maybe the most crucial, What's one small thing, genuinely small, you could do today towards one of those dormant dreams or deep desires? Researching something online, visiting a place you've thought about, sending one email, just one tiny step.
That first act of agency, you called it earlier.
That's it. It starts the momentum.
Because, in the end, and this is maybe the final thought to leave people with, the real treasure, Santiago finds, isn't actually the goal.
Right. It's who he becomes along the way, the journey itself.
The wisdom, the resilience, the character gained by actually living your personal legend. That's the real reward. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting into Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. Specifically, that whole idea of the language of the world and listening to omens.
Yeah, it's a really rich theme.
Right. And our mission here isn't just to retell the story. We want to figure out what it really means to, see signs and act on them. How does this mystical tale actually offer practical insights for you?
Exactly. It's about connecting the allegory to life.
Because Santiago's journey, he goes from just sort of passively getting hints to actively reading this interconnected world around him. He's basically learning a whole new kind of literacy.
And that's what we'll unpack today. We're going to look at this framework Coelho builds, but through a few different lenses: historical context, psychology, and just plain logic.
Sounds good. So multiple angles to really get it.
Yeah, to evaluate the claims, see how different views fit together, and hopefully deepen your understanding beyond just the surface narrative.
Okay, so let's start with Santiago. At first, he gets those stones, Urim and Thummim. Pretty straightforward, right? Yes or no?
Simple guidance, like a checklist.
Exactly. But then it gets way more complex. He has that vision of the hawks attacking the oasis. That's not a yes-no. That requires his own interpretation, his understanding of the context.
It mirrors how we develop expertise, doesn't
Yeah.
it? You move from rules to intuition.
Totally. From following instructions to, feeling the situation. Now, the book calls this the language of the world. How's that defined?
Well, Coelho describes it as nonverbal. It's about enthusiasm, things accomplished with love and purpose, that energy behind actions.
Okay, that's interesting.
But we can also see it more broadly, maybe, as simple kindness. I remember hearing this story. A young guy and an older woman on a train didn't speak the same language at all, but they communicated perfectly. A smile, him helping with her bag, just basic human respect and generosity. It showed how empathy itself is this powerful, unspoken language.
It clicks. This idea of a universal connection, whether it's shared purpose or just empathy, it feels fundamental.
It does.
And it makes you think. Humans have probably always tried to read the world this way, looking for signs beyond words. This isn't new, is it?
Oh, not at all.
Yeah.
The history here is deep. Ancient civilizations, the Sumerians, Mesopotamians, they took omen interpretation incredibly seriously.
Seriously, how?
They basically systematized it. It wasn't just guesswork. It was almost a proto-science. They had massive collections of omens to guide big decisions: war, building, harvests.
Wow. So it wasn't just folk belief.
No, it was integrated into society. It shows how deeply ingrained this drive is in us to find patterns, to predict what's coming. It's probably a survival thing,
Right. Trying to make sense of chaos. So how does modern psychology look at this feeling, like when things seem to just line up?
Well, you've got concepts like Carl Jung's synchronicity. These are events that feel meaningfully connected but don't seem to have a direct cause and effect link, that everything is aligning feeling.
Okay, I get that.
But then psychology also talks about cognitive biases. Things like apophenia, that's our tendency to see patterns in random data, like seeing faces in clouds or thinking a random sequence must mean something personal.
Or seeing shapes in toast.
Exactly. An illusory pattern perception. A classic example is the gambler's fallacy, thinking that after a run of reds in roulette, black is somehow due. The events are independent, but our brain wants to connect them.
So that feeling that the universe is, conspiring to help you, science would say that's really our brain's pattern-making machinery at work.
Pretty much. It's an internal mechanism, a product of how our brains evolved to find connections, which was often crucial for survival. The feeling is real, but the explanation might be more internal than external cosmic forces.
Does understanding that take away from the book's message, though? Or the usefulness of intuition?
I don't think so. Understanding how it works can actually make us better at using it. The book's big shift is from external signs to listening to the heart, right?
Yeah, that becomes central later on.
And think about real-world examples. People like Steve Jobs, Richard Branson. They often talk about gut feelings. Or Isaac Newton, the apple falling wasn't magic. It was a trigger for a mind already deeply immersed in observation and thought.
So intuition isn't some mystical download.
Not necessarily. It's more like sophisticated subconscious pattern recognition. Your brain rapidly processing vast amounts of past experience and data, way faster than conscious thought.
Okay, that reframes it.
And that phrase, the universe conspires, it's not about passively waiting for signs. It's more like persistent action plus attuned awareness, perceived confluence of events. You're actively working, paying attention, and then things seem to align.
Ah, so it's the combination. Like Santiago didn't just wait. He journeyed, he acted, he paid attention.
Precisely. So we can translate the book's concepts. Language of the world is like heightened awareness and empathy. Omens are maybe subconscious pattern recognition kicking in. And the universe conspires is what happens when your persistent action meets opportunity because you're receptive.
That makes it very practical. So what are the takeaways for us, for the listener?
Okay, 3 main things, I think. First, cultivate your intuition as a skill. Reflect on your gut feelings. Ask yourself, is this insight born from experience? Or is it just wishful thinking, a bias? Learn to tell the difference.
Actively train it, basically.
Exactly. Second, integrate analysis with that instinct. Use data, use logic, absolutely. But let that cultivated intuition act as an early warning system or an opportunity sensor. Don't ignore it, but don't let it fly solo without checking the facts.
Balance both. Makes sense.
And third, embrace that language of awareness. Practice mindfulness, maybe. Just being more present and receptive to subtle cues around you. Anchor what you do on purpose, like the book says. And importantly, use kindness. It really is a universal connector.
Wow. Yeah, this deep dive really shifts The Alchemist from just a beautiful story into a practical guide for being more aware, more purposeful.
It's about seeing ourselves and the world with maybe slightly different eyes, sharper eyes.
So here's something to think about as you finish listening.
What opportunities, what connections might you be missing right now simply because you haven't fully tuned into your own language of awareness? Or perhaps haven't fully leveraged the simple, subtle power of kindness. Have you ever experienced beginner's luck? You know that feeling like the very first time you try something new and bam, success. Way easier than you expected.
Yeah, it almost feels a bit magical sometimes, doesn't it?
Totally. And it's a huge idea in Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. He calls it the principle of favorability, the sort of cosmic nudge you get right at the start.
Exactly. But what we want to do in this deep dive is kind of pull back the curtain on that. See, it feels mystical, but our mission today is to show how beginner's luck isn't just random.
Right.
It's actually rooted in, well, psychology and even strategy. Think of it like a psychological down payment. It builds that belief in yourself, that self-efficacy, and gives you momentum.
Okay, like that initial push.
Precisely. It's like King Melchizedek tells Santiago in the book, the universe wants you to achieve your personal legend. And so it gives you a little taste of success early on just to get you invested, to get you hooked, really.
So we're saying this isn't just hoping for good fortune. We're going to unpack it, show how it's, well, almost like a set of mechanisms you can understand.
You can even potentially engineer them. It's less about hoping for luck and more about understanding the psychological game.
Okay, that's interesting. Understanding the game.
Yeah, and there's this sort of paradox with beginners. An expert, they're often constrained by their experience, right? They know the right way.
Stick to the script.
Exactly. They might miss a simpler, maybe sideways solution because they're following the rules they've learned. A novice doesn't have that baggage.
Okay, so they're freer. Less weighed down by expectations or strict methods.
Sort of. They don't have the same pressure, maybe less fear of looking silly, trying something unconventional.
But doesn't that lack of experience also mean, more mistakes, potentially costly ones? How does that square with this advantage?
Well, it's a good point. The advantage isn't that they don't make mistakes. Of course they do. It's more about the mindset. They might be more relaxed, more open to just trying stuff. And sometimes that very unpredictability is what leads to a breakthrough an expert might dismiss.
Right, because the expert knows better.
Precisely. And this connects to how we even perceive this luck in the first place. Our brains play a big role here.
Ah, okay, so we're getting into cognitive biases now, like how our own thinking shapes this feeling of luck.
Exactly. 2 big ones are relevant here. Confirmation bias and survivorship bias.
Can you break those down quickly for, listeners who might not be familiar?
Sure. So confirmation bias is basically our tendency to notice and remember stuff that, well, confirms what we already think or believe.
Okay.
So you get that one early win, beginner's luck, and it sticks in your mind. but you conveniently forget all the other times you tried something new and kind of flopped.
Right. Like only remembering the lucky parking spot, not the endless circling.
Exactly that. Then you've got survivorship bias. We mostly hear the stories from the people who made it, the survivors.
We don't hear from the ones who tried and failed early on.
Precisely. So the successful beginners stand out, making that initial luck seem way more common or, magical than it actually is statistically.
Wow. Okay, so our brains are kind of creating this narrative of luck.
They are, and here's the powerful part. That narrative, even if it's skewed by bias, can become a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy.
How so?
Well, if a novice believes they might get lucky or feels that initial boost, they often approach the task with more confidence, right? Less fear.
Okay, yeah.
That boosts their self-efficacy, that core belief, hey, I can actually do this. And that's not just wishful thinking. It genuinely improves performance. It gets the momentum going.
So understanding why it feels like luck and how that mindset helps, that gives us power, doesn't it?
It does.
How can you listening right now, actively use this? How do you engineer your own principle of favorability?
Yeah, it's about shifting from passively hoping for luck to deliberately creating the conditions for it, taking specific actions.
Okay, let's get practical. What's the framework?
3 key things, really.
All right, lay it on us.
First, start small, really small. Break down whatever big goal you have into the absolute smallest, least scary first step.
Like Mark Twain said, the secret of getting ahead is getting started. Don't aim for the whole book, just the first sentence.
Exactly, just get started. That tiny step naturally leads to the second point. Create quick wins.
Okay.
Deliberately design those very first stages so you get some kind of positive result fast. Complete one easy module, get one bit of positive feedback, finish page 1.
Give yourself that taste of success you mentioned earlier.
Yes, you're activating that positive dopamine loop in your brain. It says, ooh, that felt good, let's do that again. It builds motivation.
Makes sense. And the third step?
Celebrate milestones. And I mean consciously. Acknowledge those small wins, maybe even give yourself a small reward.
It's not silly, it actually reinforces the behavior.
It absolutely does. It cements that feeling of progress, that mastery, and fuels you for when things inevitably get harder down the road.
Right.
So, look, the big takeaway isn't about passively waiting for the universe to do you a favor. It's about taking these deliberate steps to invite that favor.
You're building your own momentum, your own psychological capital.
Exactly. You're not just relying on luck. You're building the resilience, the self-belief to become what Coelho called the victor who is severely tested, but ultimately makes it.
So the final thought for you, the listener, is this. How can you engineer your own beginner's luck this week? What's one tiny step, one quick win you can create for yourself?
It's about actively starting that positive cycle. Don't wait for the universe. Give it a reason to conspire with you.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. For today's Deep Dive, we're digging into something I think we all face, right? How do you keep pushing forward when things get tough?
Yeah, that feeling.
That path to purpose, it's almost never straight. It's like full of twists and turns, these tests.
Exactly. So our mission today is really to unpack why adversity isn't some detour you take. It is the path.
And how that courage, the courage to just continue is so fundamental.
Absolutely. And we're drawing on some great sources. Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist, of course.
My classic.
But also weaving in modern psychology, a bit of ancient philosophy, and some really interesting real-world examples, too.
Okay, so let's start with Santiago from The Alchemist. Young shepherd, big dreams, sets off on this grand quest.
Full of hope.
Full of hope.
Yeah.
And almost immediately, bam, life throws this massive curveball. He gets to Tangier, totally new place.
Doesn't know anyone.
And gets robbed. Everything gone, just like that. So, okay, let's unpack that moment. Because it's huge for his journey. And honestly, there's a lesson there for all of us.
It really is huge. And what's fascinating is that modern science actually gives us a pretty solid framework for understanding what Santiago goes through there. We hear grit and resilience thrown around a lot, sometimes together.
Yeah, almost like they're the same thing.
Right, but they're distinct. And understanding that difference, drawing on Angela Duckworth's work here, is, I think, really empowering when you face those setbacks.
Okay, so break that down for us. What's the key difference?
Well, think of grit as your engine. It's that passion, that perseverance towards your big long-term goals keeps you chugging along.
Right, the drive.
The drive, exactly. Resilience, though, that's more like the oil for that engine, or maybe the suspension. It's your ability to bounce back, to adapt, to kind of navigate the bumps when adversity hits. It keeps the engine running smoothly, even on rough terrain.
I like that distinction, engine and oil. So Santiago, he gets robbed. He could have just crumbled, right? Said, okay, I tried, time to go home.
Totally, he could have.
But he doesn't. He consciously reframes it. He shifts from thinking, I'm this poor victim, to, okay, I'm an adventurer and this is part of the quest. That mental shift, that's resilience.
That is resilience in action, that adaptability. And then that resilience fuels his grit, his determination to actually work for the crystal merchant, earn the money back, and keep going.
Wow.
And, none of that's really possible without what Carol Dweck calls a growth mindset, believing you can develop, you can learn from challenges.
Instead of a fixed mindset where failure just means I can't do it.
Precisely. Santiago sees the robbery not as the end of the story, but as, well, a really tough chapter in his unfolding adventure.
It's amazing how these modern psych concepts echo stuff from, centuries ago.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the Stoics, right?
Oh, absolutely. Ancient Stoicism offers such a powerful lens here. The core idea is simple but profound. You can't always control what happens to you.
Like getting robbed.
Exactly. But you always control how you respond. Seneca said it beautifully. Misfortune is virtue's opportunity. Or, fire is the test of gold, adversity of strong men.
The obstacle is the way.
That's the heart of it. It's not something blocking your path. It is the path. It's the proving ground for your character.
And Santiago deciding to see his struggle as an adventure, that feels very Stoic. Like the journey itself, the learning, the person he's becoming through the hardship, maybe that's the real treasure.
I think that's often the case. The internal transformation is the gold.
Okay, this is all sounding very noble. Courage, resilience, grit. But let's pause. When does perseverance become, well, just stubbornness? When is it not courage, but maybe a trap?
That's such a crucial point. This is where we bump into the sunk cost fallacy.
Right, I think we've all been there.
Definitely. You keep doing something, watching a bad movie, staying in a job you hate just because you've already invested so much time or energy or money into it.
Even though, rationally, you should just cut your losses.
Exactly. The motivation shifts. It's no longer about the potential future benefit. It's about not wanting to waste the past investment. It becomes about fear of regret, not belief in the goal.
And the Alchemist actually gives us a powerful example of this, doesn't it? The crystal merchant.
Oh, the crystal merchant. A perfect cautionary tale. He has his dream, his personal legend, the pilgrimage to Mecca.
But he never goes.
Never goes. He's trapped. Not by failure, but by his comfortable life, his shop, the fear that if he actually achieved his dream, he'd have, quote, nothing left to live for. It's a kind of sunk cost. The comfort he's built prevents him from pursuing what he truly desires.
So his past investment in comfort paralyzes him. Wow. Okay, so this isn't just philosophy or stories. Let's talk real world for a sec. These principles play out all the time.
They really do. I mean, think about Walt Disney. His first animation studio, Laugh-O-Gram, went bankrupt, completely failed before Mickey Mouse was even a sketch.
Or Michael Jordan, famously cut from his high school team. Imagine if he'd stopped there.
And J.K. Rowling. Harry Potter got rejected by, a dozen publishers?
Yeah, something like that.
These stories, they aren't outliers. They kind of show that setbacks aren't just possible. They're often a necessary part of any big undertaking.
So wrapping this up then, the courage to continue, it isn't just some magic quality you're born with.
Not at all. It's a skill, really. It's forged. It's built from that interplay of grit and resilience, maybe strengthened by that stoic acceptance, and crucially, guided by the wisdom to know when you're persevering versus just falling for sunk costs.
The real treasure Santiago finds isn't necessarily at the pyramids.
It's forged within him along that difficult path. It's the person he becomes.
So maybe a final thought for you listening. When you face that next hurdle, that obstacle, instead of just feeling discouraged, maybe ask yourself, okay, what is this trying to teach me?
Yeah, what's the lesson here? How can I reframe this?
We really hope this deep dive gave you some useful tools, some powerful insights for your own journey, helping you see those challenges not just as roadblocks, but maybe as the path itself.
That's all for this episode of the Deep Dive Cast. Thanks for joining us. We hope you gained some valuable insights. Be sure to tune in next time for another deep dive into the world's best ideas. Until then, keep learning and growing.